Welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 228, Masks We Wear. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is RCA. I guess I'm saying that now as my introduction. I'm Cynthia Alice Anderson, lovingly known as RCA for Reverend Cynthia Alice. And we welcome you to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. I'm here this morning in 818 Studios with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, I want to welcome you to a brand new week. And I want to thank you for spending part of your day here with us for episode 228. 228.
That's amazing. And this is going to air on
Halloween.
Halloween.
Or Halloween, as Shannon likes to point out. That's how it should be pronounced. Every year we have this discussion. Halloween.
Well, it is. Yes, I think that's correct.
Yeah, like if something, but if something's hollow, that's usually spelled with an O. It's not Halloween. It's Halloween. But it's also Deck the Halls, so English is weird.
Deck the Halls. I have a friend named Hal. We'll call it Deck the Halls. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yes, and today's topic is exactly for Halloween.
Halloween. Yes, it's masks we wear. Masks, very appropriate. Masks we wear for a Halloween episode.
Well, I was going to say now I'm complex. I don't know which way to say it. Masks we wear. And I love this holiday. You know, as a parent, it's a lot of fun. And as a minister, it's been a lot of fun in churches, because one year I went as a witch and it completely freaked people out.
Well, I grew up Wesleyan, and so Halloween was kind of a sticky situation, because on one hand, it's fun and it's candy, and there's
right.
Kids and candy, but on the other hand, it's overtly celebrating things that mainline evangelical churches tend to shy away from. So like witches and zombies and vampires and demons and stuff. And so I remember in youth group, as a kid, we would have we could only show up if we were like dressed as Bible characters and stuff. And so my mom, who
did you dress as?
My mom, who was a seamstress, right? She did costumes. She made a bunch of grapes costumes, and I went dressed as a bunch of grapes, and she found like there's a scripture that talked about the grapes and all this, and
still wearing this grape color today.
Yeah, and so she also did the costumes. I feel like we talked about this, so like Kids Praise, and so went as a Bible one year because she had a book costume that she had, and
nice. Oh yeah, that was Salty, right?
Yep, Salty.
Yeah, the Bible. Oh my gosh, that is hysterical. I don't know if any of our listeners had this experience. I bet they have.
Yeah, I'm sure. These they would call it like trunk or treat, or it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be Halloween. It wouldn't be a haunted house.
Yes.
It would be like a heaven's house. They would do all these things to basically have Halloween without having Halloween. Like, we recognize that
right?
all of these children want candy for free, but we also can't play into that.
Oh, well, I'll tell you something I've done with my son. People are probably going to think I'm nuts, but we did a Halloween fairy. And what the Halloween fairy was, because honestly, my son is unusual in that he doesn't love a lot of candy the way most kids do. And I thought the amount of candy he got was always pretty ridiculous. So he would get to keep a certain amount of the candy that he got. And then we would have the Halloween fairy come and take all the extra to kids who hadn't gotten any candy.
Yep.
And so he would keep a pile of his favorite. And then at night, the Halloween fairy would come and take all the other candy away and leave a little gift. So it was a way to not have him eat so much of that sugar.
And teach him about sharing
and teach him about sharing and all that. So I have always celebrated it as a mom and in my churches too. My dear friend Greg Barrett one time showed up. Halloween was on a Sunday and he showed up as Fred Flintstone. So it was a lot, for me, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Just kind of complicated history, I think, with it. And not to mention, like, I don't like scary movies. I don't like being scared. Like, I don't at all, like, buy into all of those things. And so whether
really?
it's Halloween or, like, Halloween haunted horror nights at Universal, like, I'm never going to do any of that. So I, too, have a complicated relationship with Halloween. Shannon loves it. She's all about, like, spooky things and pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. I mean, don't talk spiders, but all of the other accoutrements of Halloween she's on board with.
Well, what's interesting about what you're saying with how you grew up in the Wesleyan tradition, that in general, most of Christianity is scared of the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, because we're scared of it, it comes out sideways.
Yeah.
And you see fundamentalist preachers sleeping with prostitutes and all kinds of other things.
Meanwhile saying, don't dress up as a witch.
There is no dark side. Yeah, whatever you do, don't dress up as a witch, as if that makes you anything other than dressing up as a witch.
That's where the sin is, right? Really, yeah. Like little children dressing up as mummies. That's where we're losing people, folks. Pay no attention to me.
Right, exactly. And my childhood with this is so different because my mother was just fun and crazy and adventurous. And so I will tell you guys this. One Halloween, because there were so many of us, my mom, if she saw something of value on the side of the road that somebody put out, like a chair or something, she would just pick it up and we'd figure out how to use it or somebody to give it to or whatever, because we did so much for the community. Well, one time we were driving down the road and she saw one of those things dressmakers use. So it was like
the mannequins.
Not a mannequin, but it was more like a dummy that was soft.
Right.
That could be formed and then you'd use it for dresses. And she was quite a seamstress as well. Mm-hmm. She made a lot of our clothes and such as that. Well, anyway, at Halloween, so we had this one window in our home that you could see from the outside. It was like a dormer window, in the top.
Yeah.
Well, she took that dummy and dressed it up and put a noose around its neck and poured ketchup all over.
Oh my gosh.
And paint and stuff. And my sister would bring her little friends and show it to them. And they were like, ah!
Oh my gosh.
So we grew up around having a lot of fun at Halloween. We were always dressing up and making light of it. And we also always had a connection with the other side. So there was a ghost in the home that my grandfather built. And my grandfather and all the kids, in other words, my mom growing up, they built the home they grew up in by literally gathering boulders and stones from their property. And that's what they built the house from. Mm. And then they brought in shells from Florida, and those were all embedded throughout the house as well. So I'm saying all this to say we did not have a fear of that type of thing. We kind of lived with it.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. I'm just having this thought just now as you're talking, like my whole aversion to like scary movies and all that stuff. Yeah. I'm sure that was rooted in, my evangelical upbringing about, don't touch it. Don't, steer very, very clear of it. And it's,
Right. Of course, we are our experiences, right? And our growing up. And of course, then I went to a Baptist school, which was a whole nother thing. We just pretended it didn't exist. So nobody cared if we wanted candy there.
Yeah.
But my home I grew up in was so wild and always having parties and all kinds of things that I didn't really need it at school. But what I think is so fun about Halloween is the energies we do get to take on for a brief time. Mm. Right. And so I used to think I was always responsible to say how the holiday started and all that. So I'm not going there today. Where I'm going is it is fun to experience different energies. And often when we choose a character for Halloween, what we're doing is allowing different aspects of ourselves to come forward that have been pushed back into the shadow.
Yeah.
right? The shadow self is an aspect of us that is unconscious. So what do I mean by that? Well, in psychology, we learned that the personality is developed from basically ages 0 to 7. Right? So by the time you're 7 years old, your personality is mostly developed, and you mostly keep that personality the rest of your life, unless and until you begin to do soul work. So there are aspects of your essential self, what we're often calling the soul. There are aspects of your essential self that get hidden away. They get hidden away because there's no framework in the home you're growing up in for what to do with that part of yourself. So, for instance, as you're growing up, if you do something and your parents like it, you think, oh, I better do that more. And if you do things and your parents don't like it, well, you kind of take that aspect of yourself and you put it in an invisible bag. And it stays there often for many, many years, sometimes your whole life. But what we've discovered psychologically through the work of Carl Jung and many others is that Robert Johnson is another one, an author who writes deeply about the shadow. But what we've learned is that the gold, the essence of you lives there and needs to be rescued, basically. That there's a tremendous aspects of yourself to be rescued from the shadow place. So historically, when I say the word shadow, we think of something dark and scary like Halloween. But the truth is, there's good there. There's wholeness there. There's fun. There's laughter. So like if in your home you grew up and there wasn't, an acceptance of dancing and you loved to dance, or there wasn't an acceptance of having fun and laughter and creating games with one another. If that wasn't accepted, well, that went in your shadow. Sometimes knowing your worth, knowing your talent, that goes into the shadow as well. And you spend your whole life going, aren't they talented? And what you're really trying to do, your soul kind of projects this image outward and is trying to know itself. And so you've heard me say on the show, and I was talking about it deeply in that retreat at Unity North Tampa, that anytime we're looking outward and we're saying, oh, look at how amazing they are, I want you to say to yourself, me too. Because if you can recognize it, it means it's in you somewhere. So the show Mask We Wear that we're in right now is about learning to go beyond the ego and the personality. In other words, we wear the mask of personality, and underneath all that is your soul. It can be in the shadow. It can simply be unknown to you. You don't have to worry about what to call it. But the idea of the shadow is it's unknown to you, right? It's like that term, it follows you like a shadow. Yeah. So it's there, but you can't grasp it, right? Because you're not conscious. You're not consciously aware of those aspects. But so what happens around the holiday that we like to do often is we will dress in a certain character that most likely represents a part of us that has been unnamed, and we do it unconsciously. For instance, I spoke earlier about being a mom. I spoke earlier about, as a minister, being a witch was a shock for people. Well, I was doing that on purpose because I wanted to set up what I'm about to say, which is some of the ego and personality identification we do is the labels we wear in the world. I am a mom. I am a minister, right? I am a woman. I am a woman over 50, I am from Georgia. I am the youngest. All these are personality identifications. Because in my soul, am I a minister? I'm a soul. Being a minister is how I work in the world, but it isn't who I am. It's what I do. That my soul identification is this grand, expansive aspect. that I have literally within me, an infinite self. And you see how that is much larger, much grander, much more connected to the universe and all that is, rather than I'm a mom, I'm a this, I'm a that. And so I think what happens in life is we wear these masks and think they're our true identity when what they really are limited personality aspects. We've identified with them because we're playing the role. This author, Sonia Choquette, I haven't spoken about her in a long time, and it's Sonia, I believe, and the last name is Choquette, Sonia Choquette. She has a couple of great books, and she has some cards that go along with it. And one of the cards that always comes to my mind when I'm talking about this, it says, live your soul, not your role. So your role is a mom, or another role I play is a business owner. Now my business has become a charitable corporation. Well, that opened me up to a lot of tax benefits. It also opened me up to higher tax preparation. Why am I saying all this? Well, I'm saying that those are aspects of the personality. So think about, what mask are you wearing as you go throughout your day? Certain masks we wear carry with it stories about us that may not be true. One of the things that's difficult in my work as a minister is people limit who I get to be because of that role. They think I'm judgmental. They think I'm dogmatic. They think I am not awake and aware. It's like it's hard these days to be a minister at times because of the projections that get laid on what that means. And of course, I'm a unity minister, but people hear that word minister and they just think, oh, you're never going to accept me, or I can never talk to you, or I can never be real around you, or, oh, I said a cuss word, you're going to judge me. Right? So those are personality aspects, and they're often, considered archetypal aspects of being a minister. But the truth of that is that, boy, I am a minister for my work, but that is not who I am. I am a soul on a spiritual journey, just like you are. So with what you do, you may be a lawyer. And boy, how many lawyer jokes have you heard? Lawyers are this, lawyers are that. It's funny because two of my best friends are lawyers. They're some of the finest people I know. They don't resemble any lawyer joke I've ever heard. So being a lawyer is a mask that you wear. It's something you do. And if you too closely identify that, you're going to lose a little bit of your essence. So I'm just trying to wake us all up to the fact, myself included, that we can wear masks. But there's something deeper within us. We always want to remember that. So what are the masks you wear? I have another dear friend. He's always working on not playing the role he played in the family. He keeps trying to come out of that because he realizes it's a personality defense that he learned for how to manage in a dysfunctional household. And he keeps saying to me, I know there's another way for me to be in the family. I'm still figuring it out. I said, yes, and it's a journey. The great teacher Ram Dass says, if you think you're, spiritually enlightened, go spend a week with your family. Everything that you've learned, you go, oh, wait, I just forgot it all. So what's fun about the holiday, though, is you get to consciously take on a different aspect. And I think that really helps you grow. It was really fun for me to be a witch because what gets placed on ministers, right? As I said, you got to be pure. You got to be holy. You got to be perfect. So when I wore this long witch nose and I had this kind of claw-like finger thing that was all green, it scared one of the kids at church. And then somebody said, oh, that freaks me out seeing you as a witch. I said, we all have a dark side. It's important what I think is important about Halloween is because we're consciously working with it, well, then it doesn't have to come out sideways. Mm-hmm. You don't have to hide it. This is the one day. Yeah. If you want to go be Captain America, go for it. It doesn't matter if you look good in tights. Go for it. Be Captain America. Be Wonder Woman. Be Wonder Woman. Live large. Have fun. Go be a zombie. You know, if you're somebody who's active all the time, take on the opposite. That's a lot of fun. So you can have a lot of fun with it, honor it, embody it, and then let it go the next day. But it's going to bring a different energy into your life and into your world. It's a lot of fun. And you'll see how we put on masks every single day. There's a professional mask. There's a personal mask. There is a I'm a successful mask. There is I'm cool mask. I'm a nerd mask. See, we all have these masks we wear. And it helps me to know if I see people behaving in weird ways, it's like, oh, well, that's their mask of trying to prove everything is okay, even though their life is falling apart. You know, there's my alcoholic mask, my drug addicted mask. All these are masks that we wear that cover our true essence. There's a great Unity book. I say it's a Unity book because Unity has used it basically as a textbook. It's called Lessons in Truth. It's by the great author Emilie Cady. And Emilie Cady spelled differently too. Emilie and then Cady. I named my cat years ago after Emilie Cady. And Emilie Cady's work basically was the basis of Unity. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore had these miraculous healings, and they started reading Emilie Cady and said, basically, will you write for us? But Emilie Cady was brilliant. And her book, Lessons in Truth, if you read that, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. It's written old school in old language. And one of my favorite chapters, the title is Bondage or Liberty, which? Question mark. Bondage or liberty, comma, which? Which are you going to choose? And she says the personality is bondage and the soul is liberty, right? Lessons in Truth. There, another great book I want to mention is also another old Unity book called What Are You? By Imelda Shanklin. I'm thinking of all these weird name authors today. Not weird, but different. Imelda Shanklin, Imelda. What Are You? By Imelda Shanklin. And it is about learning what is your true identity. Because what we're seeking to do in the work we do, you hear me say nearly every show, you're here to grow, prosper, and evolve, right? You're here to grow, prosper, and evolve. We want to live from soul, not with this personality identification. Now, it doesn't mean you don't go out there and be an incredible lawyer. It doesn't mean I don't go out there and be a great mom or minister or business owner. It means that as I do it, I'm not sourcing my worth in the personality. I'm sourcing in soul. And so I'm letting my soul shine through these aspects I do as I go throughout my day. We simply want to become more conscious. What are the masks you're wearing on a daily basis? I remember when the idea of a super mom was first introduced. That was probably, 25, 30 years ago. It was the mom who was going to work and do everything perfectly and look perfect, and all of that. And I think actually Donna Bevan Lee just talked about that on a show recently, the idea of the super mom, that there is some kind of perfection. Well, that is another personality identification, that I could possibly be perfect and do it perfect. And you do that, well, you've got to start getting surgeries and all kind of things to keep up with looking perfect and young all the time, even if you are aging and even if, the body's changing. You're still trying to be super mom and have it all together. That's a personality identification. So what are the masks you are wearing? Because we don't just have one. We don't just have one. One Halloween when I was a kid, I have a sister I'm very close to, and she's very talkative and super funny. And one Halloween, she did this thing where she was a mime, like a clown mime. And she never said a word the entire night. Like she never came out of character. And she came in and she had this food and stuff. And she just sat down and we were all saying hi to her and everything. And she wouldn't say anything. And she sat down and then she got out a little boiled egg she'd made and was putting salt and pepper and all this crazy stuff. And, we were just all watching her and it was like watching a completely different person. And I mean, that was literally probably 45 years ago. And I still remember it like it was yesterday, her taking on this different aspect. And it was so opposite of how she was in the world. It was so fun. So try that out. Do something totally opposite of how you present in the world. It'll bring a new aspect of yourself forward. It's a lot of fun. I hope you'll try it. And I hope also you'll begin to think about, what are the masks I'm wearing unconsciously? How am I living from this personality identification when I could be, bringing my soul in and through these situations, because we want to be authentic. We want to be living our essence. We want to be at peace. We want to be allowing our soul to shine through. So there's less and less personality and more soul. So the idea today is simply to be conscious that we do wear masks, that you're not your job, that you're not your age, you're not your birth order, you're not what society says simply because you do a certain thing. One last story. This is years ago when I was the youth director at Unity Church of Overland Park. It was a real special community. It had a lot of amazing people in it and great ministers throughout the years. And anyway, I was the youth director there. We had like 150 kids every Sunday. It was just a great program. And I worked with a lot of volunteers. And so as I was developing volunteers, we'd have meetings and things. And a lot of times we do these games where we would say, tell us 3 things about you. 2 are true, 1's a lie, right? You played that game before. And it was kind of funny in a spiritual setting because people got a real twinkle in their eye, like, ooh, maybe I can trick somebody, It's a lot of fun since we all worked with kids. I believe in really having fun in that setting. So anyway, we were there and one of the men there who I loved, his first name was Judd, Jud. And he gave 3 things. I don't even remember what the other 2 were, but one of them was that he crocheted. And everybody thought that was the lie. And he goes, I can't believe you good Unity people that say you love everybody and he goes, just because I work construction, what makes you think I can't crochet? And I said, I love knowing that about you. He goes, you think a white straight man can't crochet? I said, I think you can, and I love it. Well, then for Christmas, he made me a little something for my office, this little crochet thing. It looked like something my grandmother made. He said, I go to a Zen place, and he said, it's weird. I go to this kind of Zen place, and it really helps me process my day and let all that go. I thought, oh, I love this. I love that he hasn't bought into, well, I'm a white straight male and I can't do this. He just did what supported his journey. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I said, okay, you guys, Judd's called us on it. We were limiting. And everybody just loved that about him. He said, well, I don't usually tell people because, they think it's weird. I said, oh, I don't think it's weird. I think it's awesome. I get it. So he had come out of some of that personality identification, but still in the real world had a hard time talking about it because people just didn't make a space for it. But he made a space for it. See? So he still was honoring his soul and his journey. And that's what we're seeking to do. I thought, what a beautiful, beautiful example of that. He also was an amazing dad and an amazing teacher. He worked at the church for years as a volunteer, 3 and 4-year-olds. 3 or 4-year-olds, they'd climb on him, Mr. Judd, Mr. Judd. They'd be on his back. One would be on his knee, and he'd be reading the Bible and telling a story and getting him crackers. Just what an amazing man. Love, love, love it. So is there a way, friends, that you're being called out of this mask that you wear? And are you being called to experience another part of yourself this holiday? I think it'd be a blast if you just really went into that. I'm having fun this year. I'm doing a lot of Halloween stuff this year. It's cool to have a kid and Halloween be a lot of fun. Yeah. So this is our hope for you, friends, that you move into more soul, less personality. That's always the goal, right? We want the soul to shine through. We hope that the soul can be for you a guiding light. And that as you begin to pull out of these personality aspects, that you live more from soul. Living from the personality is bondage. Living from the soul is liberty, is freedom. You know, the scriptures say where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Yeah. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is peace. There is liberty. Yes. This is what our hope is for you. So we hope you have a great holiday and know that we're always thankful for you. We're blessing you. We're supporting you. And we look forward to seeing you here next week, and enjoy. Blessings on the journey, dear friend.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2022, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.